Jesus is Heaven's second Sunday in Lent, Year A. As with all Sunday Masses, we have a variety of readings. These readings are chosen by the Church to help to interpret one another. When we read the selections from Genesis, we're encouraged to reflect how what we read is related to and is fulfilled in the Gospel selection for today. This manner of interpreting Scripture is referred to at times as a canonical interpretation of Scripture. According to the canonical interpretation of Scripture, the first book of the Bible, Genesis, is rightly interpreted by the last book of the Bible, Revelation, since all books of the Bible have one author, God, and God, who has truthful love, does not contradict himself. The canonical interpretation of Scripture may also be described as a liturgical interpretation of Scripture, since the Church in her wisdom deliberately chooses for the liturgy selections from the Bible that mutually interpret one another. This liturgical approach to interpreting Scripture is a principal source for theology and for the study of theology. While affirming that Scripture is the soul of sacred theology, the Church also teaches that liturgy is the source, the font, and summit of our faith. This means that liturgical worship, above all the celebration of the Mass, is the main way that our faith, is the main way that our theology is to be shaped in accordance with the phrase lex orandi est lex credendi. The law of prayer is the law of belief. Turning our attention to the first reading from Genesis, we encounter three promises God made to Abraham, our father in faith. God promised Abram land, a nation, and a universal blessing by which all the families of the earth shall bless themselves. We believe that these three promises are fulfilled in Jesus Christ, who through his humanity is a child of Abraham. In his person, Jesus is the land, Jesus is the nation, and Jesus is the universal blessing for all people. Jesus is the promised land, the nation, and the universal blessing for all people, since, in the words of Benedict XVI, Jesus himself is what we call heaven. Heaven is not a place, but a person, the person of him in whom God and man are forever and inseparably one. And we go to heaven and enter into heaven to the extent that we go to Jesus Christ and enter into him. Similarly, Pope Francis defines heaven as an encounter with Jesus. In today's Mass, we are offered the privilege of encountering Jesus by receiving the Eucharist. In giving himself to us Eucharistically, Jesus wants to knit us more closely together in his mystical body, so that we also will encounter him through each other more and more as we grow in communion with one another as the Church, as the promised land, as the nation, as the universal blessing for all, because the Church is wedded to Jesus Christ as one flesh. God bless.